Hello and welcome everyone. In this video I'm going to check out RipplerX by transforming this beat into something that only uses RipplerX exclusively. I think I'm going to start with the chords. Beat 2. Now we have separate groups for the old beat and the new one. By the way, just so you know how I made the old beat, it's very simple. I just loaded a drum machine module of Bitwig and loaded a bunch of drum samples from some drum computer, composed some chords and let them be played by Synth 1. I also used Synth 1 for the bass line and for the lead sound. Lovely as always, but yeah, now I try to replace Synth 1 for this video. Only for you, I wouldn't do that ever in real life because Synth 1 is the best. So let's mute beat 1 and focus on beat 2. So what do we have here? The default sound is already one that is not sustained. So the big question is, how do we get sustain into this? I suppose we are doing that by turning up the decay of this area, which is, I guess this represents a modal material. Now here's one thing that modal synthesizers like to do. When you turn up decay a lot, they resonate for a very long time, because what's going on inside here is there is an impulse being played back and then it runs through a modal filter. And a modal filter is basically when you have a lot of band passes in parallel, all on different frequencies, and together they form the spectral distribution of some certain material, like in this case a string. And I suppose this is the amount of partials. Yeah. So when you turn down the amount of partials, you get a less detailed sound that is also more muffled and sometimes more relaxing, which is probably why this is a parameter that is available. So let's max this out. Now one thing that is pretty cool about this synthesizer is that it has a release knob, a unique release knob for each of the, let's call them oscillators, which is very useful because, as you have heard, this can decay forever. But when you can add a release envelope to the note off events of each note, then it's okay when it rings out forever because it is being turned down by the release. Now I got a sound that sounds actually a lot more like a string, because turning down the material knob for some reason gave it a lot more of a dampening character. By the way, up until now, when I wanted to have a sound like this, I loaded the plugin Karp, which looks like this and it sounds like this. I suppose this is a modal synth as well. But yeah, less control, and also it costs a bit of money, and this one is free, so that's pretty nice. If I am correct, then the hit parameter changes something about the impulse that is run through the modal filters, because it feels like it has an influence mostly on the transient of the sound. Actually, it reminds me of the plugin Chow kick, where you synthesize a kick from resonance. On the one side of the interface you can tweak the pulse shape, which is the impulse that is run through the resonant filter. a great way to control the overall sound character before even starting to mess with the filter. And I especially like that you can actually view the shape of the pulse in this plugin, which is something that is missing in RipplerX. That's why I showed it to you in Chow. The Inharmonic knob makes stuff inharmonic. This is very useful. It makes it sound more bell-shaped. Let's actually check out what this thing is doing in the spectrum analyzer so that we can better appreciate what this knob is doing. So as you have probably noticed, the more inharmonic is dialed in, the more these partials spread away from the fundamental frequency, which is actually something that I have experimented a lot with myself already. Now I'm wondering, what are these numbers representing? Is this in a certain unit? If yes, can I put it on exactly 12? Would it then sound sort of like an octave? No, I don't hear anything specifically harmonic about this particular value. But yeah, on low values, it is a very nice knob if you want to keep the harmonic information rather clear, but just want a different character on the sound. The tone control is very exaggerated in my opinion, because at this point it's already pretty useless. You have to turn it down way more. When you go down, turning it down can actually be useful for bass lines. We will explore that later. But for now I just have to say turning it up so far didn't ever do anything cool for me, also because it's way too quiet. But yeah, those are the controls of the string. But as you can see, this is a drop down menu and you can actually access way more material types. And they all come with different parameters. For example, this one has pretty much the same parameters, but also a ratio control. But this one, for example, has a radius control and not much of the other ones. So yeah, they can actually differ, this one as well. So let's check all of them out real quickly on this sound. Moving these parameters feels so good. Squared. Membrane. Okay, we gotta remember this later when we make the drums, because this is very noisy. Okay, drum head. Marimba. This one is for the cuties out there. Yeah, very nice sound as well. The marimba makes me feel like it would be cool if there was a way to transpose a single oscillator to a different octave, so that when they are mixed together, you know, you can get a diverse range of frequencies, especially when you change this to A plus B. This is the routing, by the way. By default, it's routed in here and then in here and then to the output, but you can change it to A plus B, which puts these two things in parallel. Yeah, when they come in series, then you have a lot of resonance plus even more resonance, which can get very loud, so turn down the gain. And maybe turn down the resonance on both sounds. So far it has been a little bit hard to figure out good patches that actually use this routing, because the sound gets very dull when you have filtered it through modal filters twice, because you know, it might be that on the first modal filter, a lot of the sound still went through each of the band passes, because you still went from a clear impulse signal into it, but then the next modal filter has the bandpass filters on completely different frequencies, so they don't even catch a lot of the sound. That's why a lot of these bandpasses are sort of gated out of the resulting sound. That's why I like AB more. Now next up, I will show you the Mallett section. I don't understand it a lot myself, but I know one thing: when you turn up resonance, you can hear it better, and then you can use the stiffness control to get sort of a different character out of the overall sound. It's like a tone control then. When you actually dial in the Mallett itself, then it is basically like a little plop. We don't need that now. Let's actually go on with the next sound. So we have the chords now, and the next thing I want to do is the bass line. I want to start with the marimba and go down with this. Yeah, that's how you make a bass patch in RipplerX. Pretty straightforward. If you want to further distort the sound, I can recommend Destruqtor. Or Fuzzploid. Or both of them in parallel, and then also the dry signal. Okay, let's go on with the drums. Now obviously I cannot just make the whole drum set in one single track, but I can reduce it to just the kicks. Okay, how do I make a kick out of this? Maybe drumhead? Yeah. yeah, you can dial in a little bit of the noise synth to get more of transient. I keep that. Now next up I want to have a track for the hi-hats. It was alternating between a closed hi-hat and an open hi-hat. So there are some inconsistencies in the way it interprets the decay automation that I just wrote. I suppose it only reads the decay at the beginning of a new note and then it doesn't change it during the playback of the note. So in order to prevent an issue like this, we have to put it a little bit earlier so that it can react in time, and this will solve it, I suppose. Okay, good enough. Next up, we want to have the snare. So the snare consists of a rim sound and a snare. And this distinction is important because in some moment it plays slightly different stuff. So we start with the rim sound. I don't get this parameter yet. Sometimes it creates something very harmonic and other times it just creates noise. But yeah, I'm just playing around. Time for the snare. we still need the tom fill-in and the crash. But since this is more of an extras thing, I think I will skip it for now and just start working on the lead. Already cool. Now this sound would work very well with a bit of chorus modulation. And you don't hear me saying that often because chorus modulation sucks ass. Actually, it sounds better without chorus, like most of the time sounds do. But now I actually want to layer that. Instrument layer. Because the upper layer should have the notes transposed in octafier. I like making patches where one of the sounds has more decay than the other, but then the blend is more on the one that has the shorter decay, because then it's like the transient, it has a lot of punch, and then it's followed up by a bit more of a, I wouldn't say sustaining sound because it's also a plucked sound, but it feels more sustained because it only gets into the foreground once this has vanished. And I suppose that when I put a compressor behind it, then it will make it even more of a sensation, like the sound is evolving during the note. Yeah. I like that one of the lead patches sounds a bit detuned to the other one, because the modal material that was used there just has the partials on slightly different places. Now I'm going to make a project-wide macro that interpolates between the first beat version and the second one. So basically When I dial it in, I turn down this one and turn up this one. There you have it. That is RipplerX, a new great free modal synthesizer that you can use to make all kinds of stuff.